It's just so weird how some people just have just this weird power. Yeah. It's just different.
Do you think that he gives Islam a run for the money he is pound for pound right now?
Yeah, it's interesting because, you know, he did exactly what he said he's going to do. He is an absolute complete fighter.
Joe Rogan explodes with excitement after Ilia Topuria's stunning win over Charles Oliveira, demanding a showdown with Islam Makhachev. Rogan breaks down Ilia's lightweight domination and calls on the UFC to make it happen now. After securing a dominant win over Charles Oliveira, Ilia Topuria carried himself like a man already destined for gold. His flawless performance wasn't just about beating a former champion, it was about sending a message to the entire division, including Islam Makhachev.
When you were walking in tonight, like the first time the camera showed you, it seemed like there was just a smile on your face. I mean, here's this pressure-packed situation, and you're just...
I just came to collect my belt. I already won it in the training sessions. I know how hard I work. I know what I'm able to do in the sparring sessions and the training sessions. I know how good I am. I know that no one can match my level of skills inside the octagon. And when I say this, maybe I sound a little bit cocky. You guys think that I'm crazy, but I used to prove it, that I'm the best fighter in the world.
In an exclusive interview, Beneil Dariush shared his take on the situation. He described the moment as strategic and bold, noting that Paddy clearly wanted to insert himself into the spotlight. Dariush wasn't surprised and even hinted that the UFC might consider arranging a fight between Paddy and Ilia next. But everyone wants Ilia versus Islam, which would be a better fight.
What did you make of the fact that Paddy Pimblett went into that octagon straight after, and that's the next fight? You and me, we were kind of debating who is Paddy Pimblett going to fight to get this title shot. I guess the answer now is nobody.
Yeah, so it really surprised me because I thought, I really thought they would find somebody else. But I think the fact that the week of the fight, Ilia talked about Paddy, I think that kind of put something there, and then they had him come inside that cage. I'm not sure what they're going to do, but I wouldn't be surprised if they make the Paddy fight happen, just because it could sell tickets.
Despite the buzz around Paddy's entrance, UFC President Dana White responded with visible disinterest. The optics of Paddy stepping into the cage may have sparked public speculation, but it didn't align with the UFC's immediate matchmaking priorities. From Dana's perspective, the organization had not planned or entertained the idea of booking a fight between Paddy and Ilia.
Dana, Ilia, after the fight, you know, he called in Paddy Pimblett and brought him into the cage, and they had a face-off. Obviously, they've got a long history together. I know there's a lot of options on the table for Ilia, but when he shows that type of interest in a fight, does that make you want to make it?
Well, I don't know who the hell let him in there. That should have never happened. Let's start there. I was already back in my room, or that would have never happened. But I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. And I don't really think about that stuff tonight, other than, you know, obviously the Van fight. But, you know, we'll see. We'll see how this plays out.
But the tweet highlighting Joe Rogan wanting a fight between Ilia and Islam is the most awaited one, instead of Paddy versus Ilia. Joe Rogan is calling for Ilia Topuria versus Islam Makhachev next at lightweight. Bring Islam back. I think that's the fight. If I'm the matchmaker, I'm calling Islam and saying JDM is fun and everything, but come on, call him up and ask if there's a number. Let's go to Spain. Despite the growing buzz around a potential title clash, Ilia Topuria himself doesn't see the fight with Islam Makhachev materializing anytime soon. He admitted he would be surprised if it happened, though he would welcome the opportunity if it came. For now, Ilia remains grounded, acknowledging the complexities behind matchmaking, especially when titles, weight classes, and promotional plans collide.
Realistically, from all the conversations I had with the UFC and how the situation has been involved during the whole process, I don't think that fight's gonna happen. I will be surprised if I get a call and they're gonna tell me like, I want to fight against Islam, which I would love to do it. No problem. Like,
you mean next, but eventually, you guys keep winning, we will see that fight.
You think so? Hopefully.
I would say.
Why not? Why not? If the UFC wants to make that fight happen, they're gonna make that happen. But I don't know if they want to make it happen. If so, I'm gonna be ready.
When asked about Ilia Topuria's recent comment that he wouldn't fight Islam Makhachev if Islam loses his next bout, Dana White responded with clear intent. Dana dismissed any hesitation on Ilia's part and assured that the UFC would make the fight happen regardless of the outcome of Islam's upcoming match. The promotion clearly sees value in the matchup, both in terms of skill and storyline.
And just kind of piggybacking off that, obviously with Ilia's win, you know, everyone's really excited to potentially see a future fight with him and Islam. I know that's the fight that people wanted. Ilia said earlier this week that if Islam loses that fight, he wouldn't give the opportunity for Islam to fight for his belt again. Is that something you'd bypass? Because that seems like such a big fight to make.
I mean, this is all talk.
Speculative.
You know what I mean? Yeah, exactly.
But I imagine that's a fight you guys would want to make at some point. I mean, just the magnitude
Sure.
of it.
I mean, I'd make that fight tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or Tuesday, I guess we could say. Yeah, go ahead.
Wade Plemons shared his thoughts on the buzz surrounding a potential Ilia Topuria versus Paddy Pimblett matchup, stating that it simply doesn't make sense from a competitive standpoint. According to Plemons, the skill gap between the two is too wide, and that's likely why Dana White hasn't shown interest in booking the fight. With Ilia coming off a dominant win over Charles Oliveira and rapidly climbing the ranks, matching him with Paddy feels like a step backward. The UFC appears focused on more deserving contenders for Ilia's next challenge.
And maybe Paddy Pimblett's not the greatest matchup because of his strength, because of his size, because of his grappling ability. Tough fights make superstars, and a loss isn't the end of the world. And I know you don't want to kill the golden goose, because Topuria right now is on a heater. He's on a hot streak. And when I thought about it more, I knew that the reason Dana White would not like this fight, the reason Dana White would not like that face-off, that's not, in his words, how they do things, even though I've seen many of face-offs in the octagon. In fact, I saw one earlier in the night with Van and Pantoja. The reason he did not like that face-off is because it's not what Dana wants. And that, to me, just doesn't make sense. Listen, I get it. I know that Justin Gaethje is a matchup that favors a striking battle, that Ilia Topuria will most likely win. I mean, listen, I know MMA math doesn't always work, but Max Holloway flatlines Justin Gaethje in their fight.
Michael Bisping also offered his insight into the situation, placing the spotlight firmly back on Ilia's true competition. He pointed to the depth of talent at lightweight and emphasized that Ilia should stay focused on the top names. Fighters like Islam Makhachev and Arman Tsarukyan represent real progression in the rankings, while a fight with Paddy, despite the theatrics, doesn't carry the same weight. Bisping's reaction underscored the need for Ilia to continue building on his momentum through legitimate title contention, not through media-driven distractions that could pull him off course.
Clearly referring to Paddy Pimblett. Paddy Pimblett had a camera in his face, jumps out of his chair, runs in the octagon, the two come face to face. Ilia Topuria is there, standing there with two belts, looking just like Conor McGregor did when he became a simultaneous two-weight division champion. By the way, he's a two-weight champion, but he's not a simultaneous two-weight champion, but it was a beautiful shot, and of course, he deserves to have that image and be seen with two belts. Paddy gets in, they start talking shit, right? Saying I don't get knocked out and all the rest of it.
You get knocked out.
I finish you.
Even before the fight.
I finish you, little
get
man.
That from here.
I finish you.
Of course, remember Luigi Vendramini when he made his UFC debut, I think it was. He got rocked, he got clocked, and I said, oh, you got rocked, but you came back and finished him. He was like, lad, you know what happens. Scousers don't get knocked out.
Breaking down the fight itself, Chael Sonnen focused on the swift and decisive nature of Ilia's win. The bout lasted only 2.5 minutes, yet it revealed key aspects of Ilia's mentality under pressure. Paddy, who later joined the analysis, observed that Oliveira appeared tense early on, while Ilia remained composed and deliberate. Sonnen highlighted that this mental discipline shaped the flow of the fight. Ilia didn't just overpower Oliveira, he controlled the atmosphere. His calmness in high-stakes moments added another layer to his skill set, positioning him as a complete and dangerous contender.
What did you think? I mean, the fight lasted 2.5 minutes, basically. What do you remember thinking watching the fight?
I said before it, when he was walking out, I said Charles looks nervous. I thought it takes away, and Ilia looked very calm.
Yeah.
Demetrius Johnson also weighed in on the rising debate, suggesting that Arman Tsarukyan presents a far more compelling matchup for Ilia Topuria than Paddy Pimblett. With Arman's well-rounded game and relentless pace, the stylistic clash would offer a true test for Ilia's championship potential. As Ilia's name continues to surge in relevance, the UFC faces the challenge of balancing hype-driven moments with legitimate rankings. Between the serious threats of Islam and Arman, the promotion must now navigate meritocracy and momentum, choosing the path that will shape the lightweight division's next defining chapter.
Who is next for Ilia Topuria? Now, technically, it should be Arman Tsarukyan because he is truly the number one contender. But they basically forced this Paddy Pimblett versus Ilia Topuria engagement, because there is beef between those guys. They have had some exchanges before outside of the octagon. But this is where I had this hot take recently this week, is that I said the UFC is not a sport. Like, they get to dictate what they want to push, the narrative of what the fans want to see, which that's not what a sport is dictated on. And it's funny because my dad and my wife, Destiny, were watching the fights. They're like, what the fuck? It's like WWE all over again. And Michael was going off. He goes, why are they giving us Paddy Pimblett? It should be Arman Tsarukyan. And truthfully, it should be. The next contender for Ilia Topuria should be Arman Tsarukyan.
Javier Mendez, longtime coach of Islam Makhachev, analyzing Ilia's performance, noted how Topuria's constant pressure dismantled Oliveira's rhythm. That kind of control is exactly what would be tested against someone like Islam Makhachev. While Ilia overwhelmed Charles with pace and precision, Islam presents a different puzzle, one rooted in grappling dominance and positional control.
Yeah, no, it was extremely impressive, and you got to give hats off credit to Tapora. He is extremely impressive, extremely confident, and even picked the round he was going to knock him out in. He said he'd take him out in the first round. Sure enough, he did that. And Charles was, willing to engage with him. He stood in the pocket with him, which I'm not so sure that was a smart move. But regardless, maybe Charles didn't have a choice, and Ili's pressure was just too much. So either way, it was an exciting fight, and it just showed that, Ili's the real deal at lightweight also. So no, it was a fun fight for the fans, and a new star is on the horizon now, which is great for the UFC, great for us fans, because, I just might be a fan myself of all these guys.
Javier also gave his perspective following UFC 317 and Ilia Topuria's electrifying win over Oliveira. While acknowledging Ilia's impressive knockout, Mendez pointed to a broader strategic focus. Defeating Jack Della Maddalena remains Islam's top priority should he move to welterweight. As for Ilia, Mendez respects the rising star, but believes the UFC and Islam will ultimately decide if that matchup makes sense. Interestingly, he sees JDM as a tougher challenge than Ilia at this point, an opinion that could shape Islam's next steps and delay any clash with Topuria.
So this is something that, Islam will make that decision when that time comes on whether he wants to go up in weight or go down. I don't know. He might be comfortable at welterweight if we're successful. The goal is to be successful. My plan is to beat JDM, and my sole purpose is to do everything I can with Team Habib to beat JDM. That's it. But after that happens, let the UFC and Islam and Ali, the manager, and Rizvan, let them handle what they need to do. And I'm excited about the future challenges for Islam if we get by JDM.
Daniel Cormier offered his reaction to Ilia Topuria's performance, emphasizing the magnitude of what Ilia accomplished. Many believe Charles Oliveira's experience and unorthodox style would pose serious problems for the young contender. Historically, only Islam Makhachev had managed to dominate Oliveira with such ease. Yet Ilia didn't just handle Charles, he dismantled him. Cormier stressed that Ilia's ability to avoid danger and deliver a lightning-fast finish elevated him from prospect to elite.
You kind of expected him to have a harder time with Charles Oliveira, because we have seen everybody have a hard time with Charles Oliveira, except for Islam. Islam dealt with him pretty good, but for the most part, Charles presents issues matchup-wise for so many people, and it looked like that might become an issue for Ilia very early. He was able to secure a takedown, but as we have told you time and time again, Topuria at his heart is a grappler. So what did he do? Get back to his feet, went right back on the attack, trying to knock Oliveira out. He made a promise that he would get it done in the first round, and he got it done in the first round. We honestly sat at the table thinking to ourselves, I don't know if it's good that Tapora is out celebrating a victory that has not happened yet.
Benail Dariush gave his insight on a potential Ilia Topuria versus Islam Makhachev fight, pointing out the size advantage Islam would likely have in that matchup. He explained that Islam's physicality, combined with his grappling control, could pose serious problems for Ilia, especially in clinch and ground situations. However, when asked about Islam facing Jack Della Maddalena, Dariush leaned toward Islam as the more complete fighter. He believes Islam's variety of offensive tools, wrestling, submissions, and improving striking make him a more dangerous threat overall, regardless of the weight class or opponent.
I mean, obviously, haven't had a victory in a long time, and I've been coming off 2 losses. Wasn't sure if I was going to continue to do this if I lost, so definitely an emotional moment, but everything that came out just came from the heart is the best way I can put it. You know, I don't really know how else to say it.
What were you feeling in the moment as you were talking to Joe? Was it relief? Was it excitement? Like, what was going through your mind, through your body as you were talking to him?
I don't know. I wouldn't say maybe relief. I'm not sure. It's a weird feeling. It's because I was also really frustrated. I don't know if you remember. So it was like a mixed bag of feelings. The relief was in there, frustration was in there. Obviously happy that I got the victory, all that.
While the MMA world continues to debate the possibility of Islam Makhachev versus Ilia Topuria, Umar Nurmagomedov has raised a controversial perspective. He believes the UFC may have pressured Islam to vacate the lightweight title in order to elevate Ilia as the new face of the division. According to Umar, the organization seems eager to crown a fresh champion and capitalize on Ilia's momentum.
Они хотели, чтобы Ислам поднялся. Они хотели из Тапурию чемпиона в 70 килограмм сделать. Это не потому, что Ислам хочет наверх подняться, а потому, что они хотят его чемпионом там видеть. Потому что они думают, что он будет продавать бои.
Слушай, не отказываясь от того.
Ислам не хочет отказываться, он хочет подраться.
Adding to that speculation, Ilia Topuria revealed that the UFC specifically requested he remain at lightweight following his win over Charles Oliveira. He admitted plans to possibly move up to welterweight, but the promotion strongly encouraged him to stay put. That decision aligns with the theory that the UFC is invested in building Ilia as a dominant force at 155. With Islam's status uncertain and Ilia gaining star power, the promotion appears focused on solidifying a new era in the division, one centered around a marketable, undefeated champion who is ready to carry the weight.
I thought about it, but the last conversations about I had with the UFC, they personally asked me the favor, like, don't tell us after the fight that you want to move to the welterweight division. Made us a promise, and I was like, promise. Realistically, from all the conversations I had with the UFC and how the situation has been involved during the whole process, I don't think that that fight is going to happen. I will be surprised if I get a call and they're going to tell me, like, I want to fight against Islam, which I would love to do it. No problem. Like,
You mean next, but eventually, you guys keep winning, we will see that fight.
You think so? Hopefully.
I would, sir.
Why not?
Yeah.
Why not? If the UFC wants to make that fight happen, they're gonna make that happen. But I don't know if they want to make it happen. If so, I'm gonna be ready.
Ilia Topuria's rise against Charles Oliveira has shaken up the lightweight division, and talk of a showdown with Islam Makhachev is only heating up. With so many voices weighing in, what do you think? Is Ilia ready for Islam, or should he face someone else first like Paddy? Drop your thoughts in the comments below.